on the series called Uglies by Scott Westerfeld. Rare, a male author, but yeah, so this series I found really original and unique and interesting, which I really respected. Because there's so many kind of teen series out there now, you need something new and fresh, and this definitely was. Basically, it follows a young girl, and she's called Tally Youngblood, and she lives in a world where everyone is deemed ugly until they get an operation when they're 16 years old to be made into a pretty, and that's basically what's made up of, like uglies and pretties, and Tally's just kind of waiting to get her operation, really. But there's something sinister going on. Like, they don't just become pretty, they kind of change. They kind of become obsessed with looks, and they become a bit shallow and compliant, and yeah, Tally is just kind of trying to figure out what's going on, and she kind of, delves into the world outside of her town where, people don't get the operation, and yeah, her world is just turned upside down, because that's what she's known just since she was born. She becomes pretty when she's 16. So that initial premise was really kind of interesting, I thought. Basically, the series lets the reader know what the world today could potentially lead to. So it's kind of slightly implicitly preaching us about kind of our obsession with material things and looks. So it's kind of like more sophisticated and political than other teen fiction, but the writing is another matter. The author seems to get stuck on a certain word or phrase in each book, and just kind of goes with it. Like, if I had to read the word bubbly one more time, that was his word of choice in the second book. So yeah, I mean, the writing was very kind of unsophisticated, or kind of shallow. Yeah, I wasn't mad with the writing, but the story itself was quite new. The whole world in these books is very futuristic. Well, obviously it's set in the future, but like you open your wardrobe, and instead of having loads of clothes, you kind of type into a computer what you want, you wear it, and when you're finished you throw it back into this kind of recycling thing, and it recycles your clothes straight away. There's kind of like they're like skateboards, but you can kind of fly around on them. I can't remember what they're called. And basically your food, like you type in what food you want and it just comes out. It's very computerized, robotic type of future world that you always kind of imagine. And then there's kind of an outside area, outside the town, that's more, well, it's more kind of archaic in Tally's eyes, because they don't have all this futuristic stuff. They have kind of metal and rust and more kind of green areas, and they rely on natural things. So there is kind of a difference there, and yeah, so I mean, as I said, it's definitely interesting, but the writing isn't the best. I think the last time I checked there was 4 books. There could be more now. I read the first 3 because that's all set from Tally's point of view. The 4th book I didn't bother reading because it was from someone else's point of view and set another few years past into the future. But this time it was looking at something else, our obsession with celebrity. I think Tally makes kind of a cameo in it, but I didn't bother reading it. You can just read the first 3 books, and it's kind of like a trilogy of kind of Tally's progression and this world, and the pretties and the uglies. So yeah, I didn't find this series wholly enjoyable. That might sound bad. They're not very rereadable, but I really feel that everyone should read them just once. They're the type of book that you have to read just to experience the story, and that would be it. Like, I don't think I'd reread them ever. The rights have been sold, so they could, like, to a movie studio or something. So it's possible that the movie will come out sometime in the future. So I do think it would make an interesting movie. But as a book, I'm glad I read them. I'm glad I got to see what they're about and what happened and discover this world. But I wouldn't read them again. So yeah. So I'd recommend, if you're into that type of thing and you think they sound good, I'd recommend them to you. But as I said, they're not the most enjoyable books. There was There's a depressing feel I really feel as well that are there in all the books. And there was a certain charm in the first book that I felt was lost in the second and third. I don't know why, I can't explain it. But the story is interesting. So that's my review, and let me know what you think if you decide to read the series. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to a more spoiler-filled review, and if you haven't read the series, I suggest you switch off now. Okay, so Tally, I kind of went through phases of liking her and not liking her. I liked the whole sacrifice thing at the end of the first book, how she sacrificed herself kind of to save the others, and she kind of went in undercover, and she kind of got the operation to become Pretty, and I really liked how we got to see her as a Pretty in the second book. You know, it was fascinating to read the different kind of ways she viewed life, and then her and Zane kind of fighting it and breaking out. And I didn't mind David as a character, you know, he was kind of the side of the natural kind of group, and yeah, I didn't really mind him too much, and it was really sad when Zane died. I didn't think he was going to die, to be honest. Shay was, oh my god, such an irritating character. I was like, oh, just write her out. So yeah, I liked all those kind of elements of the books, but I didn't like Tally's whole transformation in the third book. They turned her into like this monster. She had like sharp teeth that went like this, and she was basically indestructible and wore the suit, and I didn't like reading about her looking like that. She sounded otherworldly. I kind of liked as well though how like powerful she was, and that like they were aiming like an arrow at her or something, and she could just sense it and turn around and snap the arrow before it hit her. So yeah, I mean, it was kind of cool to see how powerful she was, but I didn't like how she was kind of portrayed as an ugly monster. Yeah, so I feel these books, they're confusing for me because, as I said, the story in Primates and everything is quite interesting, and I do think people should read it at least once just to see what it's like. But I mean, they're not the most enjoyable books to read because, as I said, there is kind of a depressing and slightly preachy feel to them. Like you can tell the author is trying to show us what our sins today could lead to tomorrow. And as I said, I didn't read the fourth book. If anyone out there read the fourth book, or if there even is the fifth book, let me know what you think, and if it's good. Someday I might end up going back to it. But I do think it's sufficient enough just to read the first three, because the story does end at the end of that one, and there is kind of a resolution. So yeah, that's about my review, and let me know what you think of this series if you do decide to read it. I'm kind of on the fence about recommending it, and yeah, and if you've got any other recommendations, let me know. And thank you very much for watching, and tune in to my next review.